First off, Unmani, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. So, yeah, getting this started, would you be able to give us a little bit about who you are and what you do exactly?
Yeah, it's always a difficult question, that one, because essentially I just feel like I'm being alive, really, living. But about 20 years ago, maybe it's even more, I started to write a book, which then just evolved into me holding talks, and then it evolved into holding retreats and various groups and sessions and one-to-ones, and yeah, it's evolved in that way, and it's essentially about pointing to who we really are, right, beyond who we think we are. And I always love to meet people. Well, first of all, meet myself beyond thought stories, beliefs, attitudes, opinions, but then also the other people.
The other.
The other, exactly, yes. Yeah, in that I am, to meet the other as myself. And I love to do that because it's in meeting the other, it's always an opportunity to meet myself like this or like that, depending on whatever arises there. And so I invite people to explore themselves, and I hold the space for that. And together, in groups or individual sessions, we explore the recognition of who we are, or the awakening to who we really are beyond the small me that we usually believe in. And then also the more interesting part, in a way, is the living of that in the human experience. So it's not about escaping or having some kind of blissed out perfect state, but in fact about coming back into the human experience, and exploring how this is actually lived in all the challenges of our human lives, all the ups and the downs, all the beautiful times, the heart openings and the heart closings, and the losses and the achievements and the connections and the disconnections and everything in between. And how recognizing our true nature holds all of that in a container of love, essentially. Yeah.
I was going to say a container of beauty.
Also, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Love, beauty, joy, bliss. Yeah.
all the words, essentially can't say it. So we try our best with words, but they are just a dance, right? Actually, they're pointing to what is beyond all the words.
Beautiful. So, would you say the essence of seeing who we really are is seeing that essentially I am you, you are me, all this is one, we're all connected?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's no separation. That when we meet right now, as we are meeting, that in fact you are a play, as if you are separate from me, as if this human is separate from that human. And while we play that game, then we play meeting and connecting. But all of that play is happening in who I am.
Yeah.
There's no separation.
Now, would you say once we recognize that we are one, that we can play with our separateness even more
Absolutely.
so?
Even more so. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, it gives us the
That's the
freedom.
irony.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people expect that when you wake up or you recognize your true nature beyond separation, that somehow you'll live in a way that is always in this kind of oneness state. Um, but actually, it's about recognizing that it is all oneness so that then you can play in this play of separation as if it's real, knowing that it's just a game. And knowing that is the freedom to play fully
Yeah,
because you've got nothing to lose, right? It's all
exactly.
just to play in who you are. So why not take risks to show yourself, to experience yourself in all kind of ways? So this is really the lived freedom.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nothing to lose, nothing to gain.
Yeah.
This is wonderful stuff. We're only 6 minutes in and we're going right for it. This is awesome.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm.
It truly is miraculous, right? To find out this love, to be able to see this love
Yeah.
and to relate with people like you and
Yeah.
recognize. Let me ask you that one actually. What is the value in community? What is the value in us connecting like this? Does it
Mm.
deepen the love even further?
Yeah, I feel that there's great value in it, even though it's paradoxical, because on
Mm-hmm.
one hand, really, we're always alone with this recognition or with this lived experience, even because it's all happening in me, and I'm essentially, there is only me, right? There is no one else. And yet, in this human play, um, it seems, in our human experience, we love to have this reflection
Mm,
in the eyes of the other, in the acknowledgement of the other that, yes, yes, this is who I am. Yes, I am you. Yes, we are actually only playing at being separate. And this kind of conscious acknowledgement that happens between those that recognize this, um, brings that sense of greater community, and it can be very supportive and support the deepening in that living. Because being in the world, in most circumstances, obviously depending on the kind of life you live or where you live and this kind of thing, but in most circumstances, we're often surrounded by people who don't tend to recognize um, who they are really, and who are believing in their thoughts, taking their small me to really be the truth of who they are, and being moved by thoughts, beliefs, fears, hopes, dreams. And when you recognize who you really are, it can feel like quite alone.
mm,
Um, and so that's why having some kind of community where we recognize this consciously together is so affirming. In fact, I have a love of truth community that where it is exactly as I say, like we meet to consciously acknowledge this together, but also to keep exploring together, because there's this endless human exploration that we can keep deepening into. And
mm-hmm,
it's very different to explore the human deepening when you've recognized who you really are, compared to when you are still believing in this small me. That,
mm-hmm,
it's just, it has a very different perspective when you know that who you are holds all that exploration, compared to when you believe in the small me and you somehow believe that if I see myself or deepen or open or heal, then I'll be a better me.
Mm-hmm.
If you already know that there is no separation, there is no separate me, then the exploration together is just a blossoming and a blossoming and a blossoming for no reason at all,
It's
not
like a dance.
going anywhere. A dance, exactly.
Mm.
It becomes a dance together, right? An energetic play, a dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's better than dancing by yourself? Dancing with somebody else.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Takes two to tango.
Exactly. And then we get to meet ourselves. Yeah, when we're
Mm-hmm.
alone, of course, we meet ourselves. But when we meet the other consciously, yeah, it's a beautiful dance.
It's love.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
For the love of truth,
Yeah.
or the truth of love, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Works both ways.
Yeah. Truth of love. Yeah. Nice.
I like to say we're alone together,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And also think of the etymology of alone. We're all one,
All one. Yeah.
right? That's not a coincidence.
No.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Yeah. I don't even know what to say. I'm already speechless. We're 11 minutes in. This is supposed to go an hour. Like, what else can I add? That's it, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah. I mean, we fall into silence with this, huh? Like, because that's really, well,
that's it.
that's really
That's the
the
truth.
only thing. Yeah.
Well, I want to go off your note of endless exploration because I feel that too.
Mm.
I feel this endless exploration to explore with people on here like you, but also
Mm.
being okay, paradoxically, with never finding out what I'm exploring for. You know,
Yeah.
it's just the act of exploration, just
Mm.
exploring for exploring's sake.
Yeah.
No destination. That's the essence, I feel. You know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better than myself. Really. Really. I mean,
That's the beauty.
because when you recognize that there's no one here, that there's no one living a life in time, getting anywhere in the future, because there's no future and there's no me moving into the future anyway, then it's just life living itself. And
That's it.
so then, I mean, that can at first seem very depressing in a way, like, well, then what's the point? You know, if you've believed that I am me and I'm going to become a better person in the future if I work hard to get there, then at first, when you recognize that there's no one here and therefore nothing to achieve, even like those beautiful spiritual goals that we imagine, like enlightenment or whatever, at first it can be very disappointing. And we
Mm.
can even fall into a hopelessness, pointlessness, depression. And that's a necessary phase sometimes, that we fall into that, because we've had all these beautiful hopes and dreams that we have to let go of. And that process of letting go of those hopes and dreams is a kind of crashing down to the ground. And what the mind tends to do is it doesn't just stay at the ground level, it goes into minus numbers and adds an extra story of me still, that there's something wrong with me, or it's pointless for me, or depressing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still a me story. So we then have flipped from the hopeful, beautiful, enlightened me to a pointless, depressing me,
Mm-hmm.
something fundamentally wrong with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Hmm.
then to see that actually you are not even that pointless me. You know, it's not
Yeah.
even that you are, that there's no point in being here or doing anything. It's even less than that. So we have to even let go of there's nothing wrong with me, or I'm never going to get anywhere because, I haven't healed myself or whatever. We have to let go of all these hopeless, depressing dreams as well as the beautiful dreams. And just to see that actually, yeah, it is pointless. But that's not a negative thing.
That's the good news.
That's the reality. That's freedom.
Yeah.
And that actually opens up everything. It's pointless. So, woohoo, I could do anything. I could be anyone. I could play anything. I could feel anything. I could express anything or not. Right? It's the freedom to just be with myself, actually. Yeah.
It's like there's a fine line between liberation and nihilism.
Yeah. Well, nihilism is still where the mind is holding on to it and calling it something. And liberation is seeing that the mind is up to all kind of tricks, and it's endless tricks, endless stories of claiming it and making it mean something about me, feeding another identity and another identity. And these identities are sneaky. They keep kind of recreating themselves.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just ways that the mind has found to survive.
Yeah.
But it's about seeing the games, seeing those sneaky ways, not trying to fix them or get rid of them, but just to see them, to become conscious of them, and also to embrace them. So, okay, the mind is going to most likely continue to create all kinds of identities that will come up at different points, but they're never who I really am. They're just plays as if I'm playing as if I'm that kind of person, and then I play as if I'm that kind of person.
Yep, just like characters.
Characters, yeah. And we all have many.
You know what the trickiest character is? The identity of no identity.
Yeah. I was going to say like the tricky. Spiritual identity, but that the non-dual identity is,
I got caught in that. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's a very clever one, that one.
Right. It's clever.
It sounds good. It sounds good. It it looks good. It does and says all the right things. But still, it's holding on to something in nothing. To really fall into the void can be scary. Can be really scary.
Yeah.
But that is the reality. And so at some point we have to just take that risk and feel the fear. The fear of losing, the fear of being no one, nothing, of pointlessness, the fear of death, actually.
Yeah, that's it right there. You're going to die before you die.
Yeah.
Isn't that your website? It's called Die to Love. Die for Love.
Die to Love. Yeah, it's the name of one of my second book, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the essence of it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that may sound daunting to the ego. Very scary, but it's actually, that's like, how do I put it? That's the good news. That's like, there's nothing to be afraid of. The ego may create endless stories of why we should not die to love or die before you die. I get that. I felt it plenty of times, but it's actually like, that's the grace.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it doesn't sound very attractive unless...
No, not really.
Unless you are so exhausted with this listening, seeking, longing, trying, all that effort, trying and failing and trying and failing, or having some kind of beautiful glimpse or recognition or spiritual experience or of expansion or heart opening or something like that. And then it passes and again, you've lost it and you fall into like, the pointlessness again. And then again, the hope kicks in, like, oh, if I only do this, or if I go there, if I find, try this. And then again, the running from one beautiful experience to the next, and trying to escape or push away the uncomfortable, the painful, the frightening experiences. Eventually, it gets so exhausting that then there's a willingness to rather to die than to keep chasing.
That's the rebirth, but it's not like physical.
No.
Probably have to bleep that out on YouTube. It's not physical. It's spiritual.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I have to be clear that I'm not recommending
No.
physical. No.
Yeah, no. It's
the freedom. It's the freedom to live fully, actually. That when we face the reality, first of all, that physically this body is going to die at some point. Right? That is also a reality of this human. That in fact we are losing moment to moment, right? Everything.
Yeah, everything it could be today, for all we know.
Yes, but even in terms of like the small things that or small holdings, let's say, we are losing everything that we think we know, or whoever we think we are, or everyone that is around us. We are losing the ground under our feet moment to moment. Everything that we think is safe and secure, it appears to be that way, and it's a beautiful illusion. But as we inevitably find out, because life comes along and, we lose one thing after another, the reality of that, we have to confront that it is all passing through our fingers anyway, whatever we think we're holding on to.
Exactly. Yeah.
The only thing that is not passing through our fingers and that we don't lose is who we are. This is the only permanence, and everything else is impermanent.
Yep.
And so if we're chasing that is impermanent, it's a losing game, right? We're never going to succeed in that one.
Yeah.
Eventually, we get so exhausted and we realize we've just been chasing our own tail. And so then we have to fall into that pointlessness, hopelessness, because we have to come out of that hope. And in that, there's a letting go, a surrender to what is, and also then a realizing that actually this is the beauty, this is the heart opening, and it's not about an experience that comes and then goes, because all experience just keeps coming and going, and beautiful opening experiences come, but they do go. And so the true permanence is not an experience of any kind. It's that is aware of every experience.
Yes. Poetry. Very powerful. So is that, would you say, what gets us on the path is getting exhausted of losing? Because I think we've all lost plenty of times. It's just that we get sick of losing, trying to grasp at things. And then that is inevitably, in one way or the other, what gets us on this path to seeing who we are.
Yeah, I would say there's different versions of that for different people. But yes, essentially, yes, it is often like that. Sometimes we have this idea that, if we do all of these things, or we inquire deeply enough, or whatever it is, then we will arrive at some perfect state where we don't have to feel the discomfort of being human. And the hope of that, often I find for many people, that is the motivation to escape pain and suffering, actually.
Yeah.
But then underneath that hope to escape pain and suffering, we discover a longing that isn't just about escaping pain and suffering. It is actually a longing to come home, a longing to rest, a longing for peace, just to stop and to meet myself as I am. And it's not out there, and it's not in some perfect state.
Mm-hmm.
It's here.
Mm.
But it's often surprising. It's not what we expected it to be, right? It's not, we expected it to be some kind of beautiful state, but actually end up being surprised that what we're longing for is actually coming full circle back to everything we were trying to escape. It's coming back to the human experience of pain and suffering.
Yeah.
And embracing it, loving it, meeting it. And that's everything we've been longing for.
Mm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know what else to say other than yes. Uh-huh. To affirm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful stuff. I don't know what else to say, to be honest with you. Just gonna sit and breathe with that one for a second. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to get into it, I'll ask you this one. If you want to, you don't have to. How did you start to see this way? What has your path been like to be able to realize these things and convey these things?
Yeah. Well, for me, it started when I was a child, actually. Because as a child, I felt like I could see that this whole play of life was just a play. And although I didn't have the language, and no one in my immediate surroundings was acknowledging that, so I felt very alone with that knowing. But it seemed that everyone around me was taking life very seriously and taking their thoughts to be really meaningful. And that I didn't understand. I didn't know why. It was very confusing for me. But I assumed that must mean that there's something wrong with me, that they know how it should be, and that I need to be someone else.
The adults?
Adults, even children, other children at school. I remember, for example, the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. So I made something up. Right? Or even like, what is your favorite color? Blank. Like, who's supposed to know that here? And so I just would say blue because my mum's favorite color was blue. So, that seemed to work for her. So I grew up like that. And then, of course, because I believed that there was something wrong with me, I went in search of how to become a me, because I didn't find any me here. And I just found this emptiness. Right? But there was this character saying, this emptiness is wrong. Right? So this character was like, say, okay, I need to find a me to be. And so I went on a whole trip of trying on different hats, right? Trying to be different me's to see if that would kind of fulfill this kind of sense of longing that I had. I did therapy. I did all kinds of energy work and healing and I went to different teachers. I traveled all over the world, had lots of different experiences. And of course, there were some moments where there was some sense of like, oh yeah, it's okay. But then again, this sense that I'm still not a me, really. I don't know how to be a me like everybody else. And then I went to India, and I actually ended up living in India for about 3 years. And first of all, I came across Osho. He was no longer in the body, but I spent quite some time in Pune in the Osho commune there. And that was beautiful. It was very heart opening and very energetic, alive. And I so deeply resonated with Osho's words. And still, it felt that somehow there was still something not quite acknowledged. I still was trying to be someone. And then I came across Dolano, a woman Satsang teacher, also in Pune in India. And I spent some time with her. And in the Satsang, we did a lot of self-inquiry with this question, who am I? And I remember just grappling with this question, trying to figure it out, or trying to kind of get to some state that I assumed she was in. And at a certain point, I had this realization, or this wondering, what if what she's talking about is what I've always known as a child? Could it be? Could it be that someone in the world, or in this play of stuff, could actually be pointing to that is beyond the play? And I couldn't believe it at first. I didn't think it was possible. I thought I was so alone there. And then I realized, yes. So this was like a big confirmation for the little girl in me that always knew this. So in a way, it was like a healing for that inner child, but also it was like the biggest confirmation of what I'd always known, and coming full circle, just embracing that. And discovering then how this is lived became the journey after that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that's the essence, is bringing a little bit more of our childhood, that childlike play, as we spoke of in the beginning, into the adulthood. Right?
Yeah.
It's learning how to play at the playground again.
Yeah, exactly. Taking life lightly, even when it's serious, even when it's painful or scary. It's still, it doesn't.
Still at the playground.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything about me. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, would you say that is one of the most powerful or efficient ways that someone else can see this in themselves, is to spend time with others that have this realization, that can point the way or guide the way?
I would say yes. It's not for nothing that for many, many years there have been teachers, spiritual teachers, gurus, who have, had disciples or followers or people around them, because it's not just in the words, it's in the energy as well. And I find that in fact, when we come together with the intention to recognize who we are, there's such an energy in just relaxing back into that we all know, really. We always know this. But usually we're trying to be someone or do something, get somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we come together to consciously acknowledge that, it's like this big confirmation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that. Yeah, and that's where the energy comes from, is the intention. If all parties involved approach the gathering, you could say, or the satsang with that intention, then it is just this very pure, beautiful environment for realization, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it just allows, it's just a great allowance that comes through with pure intention.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Otherwise, it can become a debate, like a mental debate or a discussion about the non-dual concepts, or, it can become like a philosophical debate. And compared to actually recognizing, or the energy that is in that, it's totally different.
Totally different. Yeah. Yeah, that's very masculine.
Yeah.
It's a debate. I get it. I get where it comes from, but it's like, sometimes it's not about being right. That's what everybody's trying to be online, right? Everyone's just trying to be right and not be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm the one who knows. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and in fact, this message or this recognition is about not knowing. Yeah. It's about losing who you think you are, but also what you think you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's uncomfortable, right? It can feel very uncomfortable. And so it's understandable that people don't want that, in a way. They're trying their best to not go there. Even though it's like a push-pull, like we also have this longing. We have a longing to just relax back into that. But at the same time, we're desperately trying to run away from that.
Mm-hmm. Again, irony. Paradox. Seeming contradictions.
We know that it's going to swallow us up whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also the nature of the mind. Perhaps you could say like the masculine mind, but let's just say the mind, to map out how it should be, or how it is, or the path to get there, what it means, the steps, the levels. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, what we're pointing to is beyond that.
Exactly.
It's that knows all the effort and the trying and the mind and all the games of the mind and all the maps. The maps are welcome. It's all welcome to be here, but you can never plot a path to get here.
You're already here. Yeah. The maps, or the methods or practices, modalities, again, whatever label you want to use, are only useful enough for one to realize that they're not even needed. So it's like they're needed somewhat in the beginning to get the juices flowing, you could say. But then inevitably one comes to find in true liberation that you never really needed the map in the first place.
Yeah.
It's kind of a joke.
But you have to go through that process.
So it's like you did, kind of.
And you have to, yeah, exactly. So in a way, like sometimes people ask the question of like, is practice necessary? And what I would say is that, yes, absolutely. As long as you feel it's necessary, it's necessary. And if you feel it's necessary, go for it. 100%. Throw yourself into whatever practice it is. Exhaust yourself with that practice. So that you can see for yourself that it doesn't get you anywhere. But you can't just believe that it's not going to get you anywhere. you have to, or have that idea and then fall into like hopelessness. You have to follow any hope that you have. As long as you have hope that by doing something, it will get you somewhere, you have to check that out and go for it fully. And in the process, there is a maturing. So it's not for nothing. It's not just to see that it's pointless. It's also, there's a process of maturing, process of seeing through beliefs that can happen more and more through practice, a process of the thinking losing more and more of its power. So for that reason, it is useful in a way, to see that through meditation, let's say, for example, you would practice that the thoughts are just thoughts, right? They will keep coming out of any kind of fantasy, keep coming back to the present, and you keep practicing that and practicing that. It's not that eventually you're going to be permanently in presence, but that in that process of practicing, you realize that the thoughts more and more don't have all the answers. And you might still be holding on to some thoughts, like, for example, if I practice really hard, then I'll become a better spiritual person or a better meditator. Eventually, we have to see through those thoughts as well. But, it can support. And saying that, in some cases, it can actually be the opposite. It can seem to hinder the process, because as long as we are hanging on to a practice, it's almost like holding on to some kind of crutch that we're not willing to let go of, because we're terrified to be without any kind of support or anything to hold on to. So we hang on desperately to the practice that we know, or the teaching that we know, or whatever it is. And because we're afraid to just fall into nothing, without anything to hold on to. But in fact, as we let go and fall into nothing, this is it. This is everything we've been longing for.
Wonderful. There's this Buddhist teaching. I'm not going to quote it verbatim, word for word, but it's like you even have to let go of the Dharma at the end.
Exactly. Yeah.
Another thing is, if you see the Buddha, kill him. Right? If you see him on the road, kill him. It's kind of that same essence.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, that kind of comes back to your previous question about whether it's necessary to have a teacher or to be around someone who's recognized this. Sometimes people put a teacher up on a pedestal somehow.
Yeah.
As if
not just sometimes, a lot of times.
Well, yeah, most of the time, actually.
Yeah.
It's very rare that people don't, actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in putting a teacher up on a pedestal, then we put ourselves down and we keep ourselves small. Right? I don't know, they know, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that game of teacher and student, in that way, as long as it's believed to be true and perpetuated by the beliefs, even if the teacher is saying there's no separation, we meet eye to eye. You are who I am. I've been saying this for more than 20 years, right? But still, people tend to put me up on a pedestal until they don't. And it takes a lot of courage to actually, at first, kind of crash the teacher down. But what tends to happen is people crash the teacher down and say, well, they don't know, I know better. Right? which is just the same thing. It's just the other way, right? It's still the
Yeah.
game of separation, right? I know better.
Yep.
They're talking nonsense. I'll go off to the next teacher that I can put up on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes a lot of courage to actually bring the teacher down to zero and to bring yourself up to zero, right? So
Yeah.
you're not the small me that doesn't know, but that actually you can meet eye to eye, not even as equals, right? Because you're not separate. You meet myself, you meet yourself in the teacher. And then there's no teacher, no student. And that is the teaching, actually, always. But it seems that, we have to play this game of teacher and student that is somehow up and then down, this power game until we realize that actually there's no separation. Until we actually hear the message. Because before that, we're not hearing it.
Mm.
And then we hear it.
He who has ears to hear, let him hear.
Yeah.
Well, I believe you are a very pure teacher and authentic. I'm not just saying that. I feel it now. I feel it in this moment. And I feel your just warm presence through time and space. That's the magic of being able to do this, is you're across the Atlantic Ocean. And I feel connected. I feel like there's this non-local, non-linear connection. So that's how I know this is real. And yeah, that's it. I mean, I really appreciate you coming on here. I think this is really an amazing talk. I like to say every pure teaching is just a reminder. It should just serve as a remembrance. So I feel reminded in this moment, at least. And I imagine anyone listening in the future also is reminded of the beauty of this life, of the moment, just the beauty of just it, just feeling the beauty and the love.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think we can probably start to wrap it up, to be honest with you. I thank you, but I'll ask you one last thing. Do you have anything else that you want to get off your chest before we wrap this up?
I want to thank you also. It's been such a sweet and touching conversation, and I feel really grateful that first of all, that you invited me here, but also that that we could meet in this way. Yeah,
Right back at you.
Beyond separation, playing in separation.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and it's funny you say like we're meeting eye to eye. You're one of the only people that sets up their camera that I feel like I'm looking at you. Everybody else is like they're looking over here while they're talking to me. So it's like I'm meeting you eye to eye at this point. It's very valuable. I don't know why. Usually it's like I'm not looking in somebody's eyes. I just hear them, but like I feel like we're looking eye to eye right now. So there's something about that. Seriously.
I really feel that there is something in the eyes. I mean, I know sometimes it's a bit scary for some people sometimes to look in the eyes or to hold eye contact, and that's understandable. But at the same time, it's not for nothing that there is that phrase of the eyes being the windows to our soul. It feels like when we meet eye to eye, that all the boundaries of apparent separation just melt.
Yeah.
And here we are.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Unmani.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Peace and many blessings to you. And keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
I don't have anything else to say. Peace and love to everybody that listens to the song as well. Bye, y'all.